Okay, welcome to everybody. I'm Chiara Fumagalli. I'm the director of this Bachelor in Economic and Social Sciences, and I'm here today to try and illustrate the main feature of this program and be able to guide a little bit your choice. So, what I will stress in this presentation are four main concepts. First, that this is a program in economics, and therefore I will spend my part of the time trying to explain what is economics. The second concept is that this is a program which is innovative in the way economics is offered to you, because it incorporates two main features of what the frontier of economics is doing. So this is the second concept, is incorporation of cognitive limitations into the study of how individuals take decisions. The second and therefore third concept is the incorporation of how social interaction affects decision making. So a very specific feature of this program is this integrated view of economics and other social sciences, which justifies the denomination of the program. But I would like to stress again, this is a program in economics. Economics integrated, very much integrated with other social sciences, but here you will study economics. Okay? The last important concept is that studying economics integrated with cognitive limitations, other social sciences, requires very, very strong analytical and methodological foundation. So this will be the other, the last but very important concept I want to stress. This is a program which is very, very intense in mathematics, statistics, econometrics. So among the ones offered by Bocconi in the area of economic management, business, and so on, this is the one that is the most intensive in mathematics. Okay? So if you are here because social sciences suggested that there will be a lot of narrative, very little mathematics, this is the wrong place to be. Okay? Here it's the other way around, a lot of mathematics. Now, I will explain why we need so much mathematics, and I will explain what is economics. Let me, however, stress, avoid a misunderstanding. Okay, the denomination of the bachelor programs sometimes may be a little bit misleading. Here in Bocconi, we have a bachelor in international economic and management. You have economic, but there you study management with some economics. You have a bachelor in international economic and finance. There you mostly study finance with a little bit of economics. Within that bachelor, there is a major in economics. Only within that bachelor. In economics and management, no. It's only management. In the Bachelor in International Economics and Finance, there is a major in economics. But there is only a program which is really specialized in economics, which is this one, and which, differently from the major I was mentioning, has this very innovative approach. Okay? So what is really unique to this program is the integration with social sciences and with the cognitive sciences and so on. Okay, said that, let's start with economics. So what is economics? So here in Bocconi there are three main areas of studies, management, finance, and economics. So if you study management, the point is to understand how a firm works. So what are the different functions that are performed within a firm? how to implement them, how to manage them, starting from human resources, marketing, communication, logistics, production, counting, and so on. Okay, so the idea is to study the firm. Finance studies the financial system. Usually in present presentation, I ask students, what is the financial system? They are a little bit puzzled. Some answer banks, which is partially correct. Yes, the financial system is, among the others, made by financial intermediaries, and for instance, banks, that perform this crucial intermediation activity. They essentially collect financial resources from people that save and channel these resources towards those entrepreneurs that need resources in order to develop new ideas, new projects. Of course, this is crucial because very often it happens that you have people that have smart ideas and little resources and people that have resources but no ideas. So you need to let these people meet in order to make those ideas materialize and societies prosper, grow, and so on. Okay, so if you study finance, you mostly study this. You study banks and all the financial intermediaries, how they are organized, what are the instruments that they can use in order to collect resources, how they invest the money that they collect, how they create a portfolio of assets, what are the instruments that firms can use in order to properly satisfy their financial needs, and so on and so forth. So your attention is focused on this. When you study economics, you do not study only firms, you do not study only financial intermediaries, you study the economic system as a whole, which is made by firms, of course. Firms produce goods and services and use labor, so employ people, and then they collect financial resources from the financial system in order to, among the others, invest in capital goods, in intangibles, innovation, and so on. So you study firms, but you study also, since you want to study the system as a whole, you study also the decision of people as consumers that buy goods and services produced by firms, as workers offering their labor services, and as savers, deciding how much to save and therefore to channel in the financial system. So you have this wider view, which doesn't include only firms, which doesn't include only the financial system. It includes also all the other agents in the economy, including the government, the policymakers, which can intervene directly in production or can simply establish the rule that governs the system. Okay, so the idea is to understand how all these decision makers interact and what are the outcomes of their interaction, and especially whether these outcomes are good or bad, whether we can improve them, how should we change policy rules in order to allow the system to have better outcomes in terms of growth, in terms of employment, in terms of distribution of resources, and many different dimensions, okay? So, of course, I would like to stress that those that study management will have to study a little bit of economics, because you cannot run a firm ignoring how the system around the firm is working, and in order to be able to adapt to changes in the economic environment. If you study finance, you cannot work in a bank, or you cannot decide where to invest your resources or whether to lend the money to a firm or another, ignoring the working of the economic system as a whole. So if you study finance, you need to study economics too. But if you study economics, you will study a little bit of management. You need to understand the firm because it's one of the economic players. You need to study finance a little bit because financial intermediaries are the financial system is a crucial element of the economic system, but you want to study how all these people, all these agents, including consumers, including workers, including savers, interact all together in order to make our system work. Okay, so you have this wider view, which makes it, in a sense, very interesting, but also very challenging because it's complex to understand this phenomena. Okay, these are phenomena that are difficult to govern, they are difficult to interpret, and that's why you need sophisticated tools, and that's why you need mathematics, statistics, econometrics. Okay, this in sum is what you need in this program. So let me try giving some examples of the topics that you will address when you study economics. A very recent one, a topic that is discussed a lot nowadays, is the effect of robots for the labor market and for inequality. Firms are using more and more robots to perform some activities, typically activities that require, that substitute low-skilled workers. So this creates an immediate concern, which is, of course, what will be the implication for those workers if robots substitute low-skilled jobs? Of course, low-skilled workers are likely to lose their jobs, which is an important concern. But the point is that the story doesn't end here, because you have to take into account that also that if a firm employs robots and through robots becomes more efficient, more productive, saves on cost, it will be able to compete better in the markets, in the product markets, and therefore, if it is able to expand its sales, it will also be able to expand the demand of all those type of jobs that are complements to the services provided by robots. So this adds another element to the picture. There will be low-skilled workers that probably will lose their jobs, medium or high-skilled workers that will be needed more and more to complement the activity of robots. And probably if the activity of the firm expands, there will be also scope for some low-skilled jobs to be created, because not all the function within a firm can be substituted by robots. So the point is, of course, there are important consequences of the introduction of robots. This will have important effects on inequality, because it's very likely that some type of jobs, especially the higher skilled, will be, the demand for this job will increase and therefore their wages, while others instead will, the demand for other jobs will decrease and their wages together. So I don't want to give answers. At the moment, I don't have answers to this problem. Of course, the solution is not to prohibit the use of robots, but of course, we need to understand whether we should, for instance, invest more in education and create a wider supply of more skilled workers that can enjoy the benefits of the introduction of robots. We have to introduce systems that can support the income of those workers that lose their jobs because of the robots or favor the transitions to other sectors. So the picture is complicated. The point is that we need to understand a complex phenomenon in order to be able to face it. Okay? The conclusion is the same for the other questions that I will simply hint at. What are the consequences, the economic consequences of COVID? Here, we know we are experiencing that there are some sectors that have suffered temporary negative consequences. but others for which the negative implications have long-run effects. How can we, what can we do in order to alleviate, which policies can we introduce in order to alleviate the especially the long-run detrimental effect of the pandemic? Or another phenomenon, together with robots, that cannot be stopped is globalization. The trading of goods and services among different countries have become easier and easier. Of course, this has implications. So the point is, who benefits and who is going to lose from the fact that imports from countries like China, India become easier and easier, and we can buy from these countries cheap products. What are the implications, the positive, but also the negative implication, and how can we alleviate the negative ones? Or what will happen because of the implementation of Brexit? What will happen to the British, and what will be the consequences for the remaining citizens of the European Union? Or my favorite example, because this is my field, is this one. This lady is Margrethe Vestager. She is the competition commissioner of the European Commission, and she deals with competition and the digital agenda. So the point here is why we have. Why do we want to protect competition? Why is competition beneficial for our societies? And why do we need authorities that operate in order to protect competition? What do they do? What tools do they use in order to protect competition? And related to that, why, among the others, Google has been recently sanctioned for abusive behavior. What did Google do? What was wrong with its commercial practices? And why there are other cases that are involving, for instance, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, and so on. Okay, what's happening in the digital world? These are examples of questions that you will address in economics. Another very interesting area in economics studies the link between politics and the economic outcomes. The way the political system works and interacts with the economic system affects dramatically the outcomes of the economic system. Why? And why different electoral systems, this is just to quote an example, through their impact on the selection of politicians affect economic outcomes. And why some countries manage to develop institutions and social norms that allow them to grow and to prosper and others don't. And again, here you have other questions that are mentioned. I will not go through all of them, but the main point I want to make through these examples is that economics studies the real world. Okay? Economics wants to understand what are the mechanisms that govern all the phenomena that I was mentioning. Introduction of robots, globalization, Brexit, and so on and so forth. Okay, so why am I stressing this? Because sometimes there is the misconception that economics is, since it's a theoretical topic and therefore is abstract. Now, this is partially true in the sense that in order to understand those phenomena, you need to simplify the phenomenon that you want to study by using stylized models. This is not specific of economics. This is done in other sciences and physics, among the others. You need to simplify what you want to study because you want to focus on first order elements and forget about those elements that do not really matter. Okay, so this is an important effort of abstraction in the sense that you need to simplify what you have in front because you want to identify really the fundamental mechanism that govern that phenomenon. Okay, this is done through models that are simplified representation of reality, which use mathematics as a language. So in this sense, this is abstract because it requires abstraction in this activity of simplification. But this is not abstract in the sense that it's something that is completely disconnected from reality. What you are studying is reality. And what you are studying are phenomena that affect your life every day. Okay, so it's something that is present in your life every single day. You study phenomena that are discussed on social media, on newspapers, in policy debates every single day. The point is that these are complex phenomena, and therefore you need this abstraction effort in order to be able to interpret them. Okay, and moreover, you need also to validate your conclusions through the empirical evidence that you collect. You want the data tell you whether you gave a correct interpretation to the phenomena, you have built up a correct theory, or whether your interpretation is completely doesn't work. So together with mathematics as a language to build up models, you will need statistics in order to be able to interpret correctly the data that you can collect and confirm or not the implications of the theory. Okay, so this is what you do in economics. You study real-world phenomena, very complex and very interesting and very challenging, using mathematics and statistics, if we want to summarize a lot. Now, what is new in the way you study economics in this bachelor? As I was saying at the beginning, there are these two new elements. One is the incorporation of cognitive biases or cognitive limitations. Why? Because there is ample evidence that the standard approach is not fully satisfactory. The standard approach was based on the idea that when we take decisions, we balance very carefully all the costs and benefits that come from that decision. This can be true in some situations, but not in all of them, because there are many situations in which we cannot take into account all costs and benefits. Okay? We don't manage to do that. Why? First, because we are people, we are not computer. And so our mind has some limitations, but together with that, we also have emotions and psychological elements that affect the way we take decisions. Okay, so this is a crucial point to take into account, and has been done recently in economics as well in finance, of course, because psychological elements or cognitive biases affect decisions, financial decisions all the time, but not only financial decisions, decisions in general of human beings, and therefore economic outcomes. The second element, innovative element, is the fact that we don't take decisions in isolations, but we are part of communities. And the other people that form these communities, the values that they share, the norms that they have created, affect the way we take decisions. Okay, so these are these two innovative elements of this program. We incorporate in studying economics, the way our mind works, and the fact that we don't think in isolation, we think socially. Okay, but this is done, this integration with other social sciences, with cognitive sciences, is done to study economic phenomena. So this is a program in economics. This is not a program in sociology, just to mention one. We study economics through this special perspective. Okay, so let's focus a little bit on the first element, cognitive limitations. This comes, for this, it's important the contribution, among the others, that has been given by an academic, a scholar, Kahneman, that also won the Nobel Prize, because this has been the first one to distinguish two systems of thinking. One which is called automatic, which is very fast and intuitive, and the other one which is much slower and rational. The point is that sometimes we need to use the automatic system. We don't have any other option because we have to take fast decisions, and taking fast decisions is crucial to survive. So the automatic system performs a crucial role, but precisely for the reason that it has to be super fast, it has to focus on few elements in order to take decisions. It cannot consider all of them, all the elements that may matter, which implies that sometimes the elements the automatic system focuses on may not be the appropriate ones. So we make mistakes. Okay. So this is inevitable. The point is not to correct those mistakes, it's to take into account that when we take these decisions, we can make those mistakes in order to be able to predict correctly how human beings take decisions and how, therefore, those decisions affect economic outcomes. So here there are many examples that I can give you which refer to some famous experiments that have been performed. One is this. So there was an experiment in which many people were asked, and they had to reply immediately. They didn't have the time to think carefully. They were asked, okay, a bat and a ball cost €1.10. The bat costs €1 more than the ball. What is the price of the ball? And the point, what is the cost? Many people, but again, they had to give an immediate answer, were saying the ball costs 10 cents. Which is not correct because given that the total cost needs to be €1.10, and given that one costs €1 more than the other, the cost of the ball is 5 cents. But the reason why people gave a wrong answer was not that they are bad in maths, but the point is that when you have to give an immediate answer, you focus on some elements, and those elements sometimes are misleading. Another example of that is this experiment in which two people had to guess in 5 seconds what is the result of this series of operations. Okay? Of course, it's impossible to give the exact number in most of the cases. What the purpose of this experiment was to show that group A was much more far away from the correct answer than group B. Why? Because group B, precisely because it was starting from bigger numbers, was giving an approximation which was bigger and closer to the correct solution, which was not the case for group A. So this is called anchoring. Okay. Similarly, a similar problem is what is called money illusion, because if you tell people, What do you prefer, 6% wage increase when inflation is 4% and 3% wage increase when inflation is 0? Many people focus, this is anchoring, focus on the 6%, so on the information on the wage increase and give less importance to the information on inflation, and tend to say that they prefer the first scenario, while of course it's the second one that is more beneficial. Okay? So this shows that cognitive, or suggests that cognitive limitations affect economic outcomes through the economic decisions that are taken, making mistakes. But it's important to realize that the relation between cognitive limitation and economics is twofold, because also economic conditions affect the way decisions are taken. Why? Because economic stress or financial stress limits our ability to think correctly. We are more, we make more mistakes when we are in a situation of financial or more generally economic stress. Okay, this is called the psychology of scarcity. And this is an experiment. This is the most famous experiment that relates to this issue, which has been done in India, and a number of farmers have been tested, those people had to make a cognitive test both before and after the annual harvest. The same people, both before and after. And the outcome of the experiment is that those people perform much worse before the harvest in this cognitive test than later. Why? Because in the period before the harvest is the period of intense financial stress. They don't know whether their effort will be remunerated or not. They typically they are in debt a lot, and therefore there is a lot of uncertainty about their future economic conditions that has a critical effect on their ability to solve cognitive problems. Okay, so the point is that this is an important interaction that you have to take into account. You have to take into account that cognitive limitations may affect the way you take decisions and make you make mistakes, but at the same time, your economic conditions affected by the decision that you have taken can affect even more your cognitive limitations. Okay, so this is something new that economic models now try to incorporate. Economic as well as financial studies try to incorporate, because it's crucial when decisions are taken. The second crucial element is the influence of people that surround us, people that form the community we live in. Okay? Which means the role of social norms. So the point is that when I take a decision, I'm not alone. I do not live in a bubble. I live together with other people, and what they think or the values they share affect what I decide. So here, the example that the experiment that I usually make in presence is to ask students what they would decide in this situation. So imagine that you are Julia and you have to decide on how to divide 100 euros between you and a friend. And you can, Russell, and you can choose among all the possible sharing rules, 50-50, 70-30, and so on and so forth. Even 0 for Russell and everything for you. The point is, Russell, once made an offer, must decide whether to accept it or turn it down. If Russell accepts, then the sharing rule will be implemented. Otherwise, if Russell turns the offer down, both Julia and Russell will get 0. Okay? The point is, what would you do? So think a little bit about that. Now I will give you the result of the experiments that have been conducted. So the point is that if Julia takes her decision based only on individual rationality, which means to maximize her payoff, to maximize what she gets from the game, she should essentially give what is the minimal amount of money to Russell to induce him to accept. And that's it. And the minimal amount of money is 1 cent. Why? Because if also Russell is individual rational, you should prefer 1 cent to 0. But what the experiments show that this very rarely occurs, almost never, and indeed it's much more common that other sharing rules are chosen, quite often 50-50, or maybe other sharing rules more favorable to Julia, but enough, let's say, is given to Russell, not just 1 cent. Why? Why is it the case? Well, we can find different explanations. Among the others, we can think that for Julia, her reputation is important, and you don't want Russell to think that you are really greedy. So reputation and what other people think about us is important, affects the decisions that we take. Or the point is that Julia's decision may be driven by values, equality, justice, fairness. It's very, I think it's obvious that when Julia in that case may be concerned by a fair distribution of the resources. So keeping almost everything for herself and giving just 1 cent to Russell may be considered unfair, and she doesn't want to implement that sharing rule. That to say that cultural values and social norms are important to understand economic behavior and how decisions are taken, and therefore how they affect economic outcomes. Okay, so these are the 2 elements that are really innovative and are incorporated in this program: cognitive limitations, social interaction. Okay, I will skip this part on game theory. What I would like to stress is where in the program these innovative elements are incorporated, and they are incorporated through these courses. Now I will show you the study plan, and therefore you will see where you will meet these courses. So, but before that, let me repeat it again. This sounds very interesting, is very interesting, because it's very ambitious, trying to understand even better and better the way people behave, taking into account cognitive limitations and social interaction. This is a very ambitious goal, but in order to be able to achieve that goal, you need sophisticated, as I said before, sophisticated tools, which means that you need to rely on very, very solid quantitative foundations. So what is required in this program is to acquire really solid analytical and therefore mathematical, statistical, econometrical tools. Okay, so this is crucial. You have to invest a lot in these instruments to be able to understand properly economic phenomena through this special perspective. So that's why here, as you see in the study plan, you have in orange the mathematical or analytical in general courses. So you have mathematics first semester, first year. There is mathematics also in the other programs, but here it's harder. Okay, mathematics second semester, first year, again, it's present also in the other programs, but here it's more intense. Then you are already in the second semester of the first year, you have statistics, and then you continue in the second year, and then you continue with econometrics in the second semester of the second year, and then with the empirical methods and data analysis, which again, econometrics applied to specific problems in the third year. So really a lot of maths, statistics, and econometrics. As I said before, this is necessary in order to be able to address those questions. Then you have, it's not that you study math or statistics only in those courses, because then you use them in all the courses that can be the traditional courses in economics, the ones that, the classical ones, which are micro and macro. Again, also in the other programs, you study in the first year microeconomics and then in the second semester macroeconomics, but here again, harder. But then you continue, you don't stop with those fundamentals, but you study in this course, in the second year, strategic interaction of firms in oligopolistic markets. So this is where you study competition policy, antitrust. You try to understand how oligopolistic market works and how you can intensify competition in those markets. Then incentive design and policy, which is contract theory. It's a course in which you take into account asymmetric information, which is a crucial element of our reality. People, when take decision and interact, do not always have the same information. There may be some agents that are more informed than others, and this affects the decisions that they take. And this problem can be partially solved through contracts that give appropriate incentives. Sometimes they are solved, sometimes not. This is what you study. And then international economics and finance, which is another classical course in economics in which you study how countries trade, what are the effects of international trade, and so on and so forth. Again, in all these courses, you use math to set up the models, to make predictions, and then you use econometrics in order to see whether the empirical evidence confirms the theory or not, what are the questions that are still unresolved, and so on. And then you see in pink the courses that are very specific of this program that incorporate the innovative parts that I was mentioning before, logic and methodology of social sciences in the first year. In the first year, there is only this is a special course in a sense, because in the first year, you invest a lot in the fundamentals, which is, of course, reasonable. But then in the second year, you have mind and society, introduction to cognitive sciences, and the novelty is more concentrated in the third year with sociology, organizational behavior and social psychology, and cultural institutions and development. Okay? Then, of course, you also have some management and some accounting, because if you study economics, you need to know the fundamental concepts of management and accounting. You study law, because of course, if you want to understand the economic system, you have to study how the legal system shapes the interaction of firms, people, and so on. So these are the elements that are common to all the other economic programs. But as I was saying, this is a program in economics and with these innovative elements. Okay, that are the fundamental features. The last comment concerns job opportunities. I'm always asked this question, especially by the parents. Okay, that is very fascinating, very interesting. But will students studying this find a job? So the answer is yes, but let me make a remark. In this, the students attending this bachelor, as well as all the other students in Bocconi, in the other bachelor programs, usually after the bachelor program do not enter the job market, but continue with the master program. This is true for 97% 95% of the bachelor students, okay? So it's just a small fraction that goes to the job market. The others continue. What do, the students with this master, with this bachelor? Some decide to take a master in finance, others decide to take a master in management. The vast majority continues with economics, with the master in economics, and after that, they do everything, okay? I cannot say the typical choice is to work for this type of organization in this sector because there is no specificity. They do everything, essentially what they like, okay? So there are some that want to continue with the PhD, so that they want to continue studying and acquiring tools, and therefore they continue with the PhD, and after the PhD, some continue in the academia and do research, others work for international organizations, the IMF, the World Bank, the European Central Bank, the European Commission. Most of these organizations require a PhD. And nowadays, also the big fives, Amazon, Google, blah, 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 hire PhD in economics because they need people that have very sophisticated abilities in analyzing data and so on. Then others do not want to continue with a PhD, 80% of the students. And what do they choose? They work, some for the same company as I was mentioning before because they hire even without a PhD. They work in the private sector, they work in financial institutions, in banks, they work in NGOs, they work for governments. I cannot tell you what they do because they do so many different things. They work as economic journalists. They do really many different things. Okay, so I always repeat that the problem is not finding a job. That is not a problem at all. So the probability of finding a job is 1. The problem is finding a job that is a good match with your talents, your interests, with your passions. And to do that, you have to be aware of what you study here. Okay? So you have to be aware that this is a program that wants to give you very strong foundations to be able to interpret and understand very complex phenomena. And also the purpose is to give you the tools to understand the phenomena that will be prevalent in the future that are very different from the ones that we are facing now. So maybe now there are things that we understand, but the problem is that everything changes so fast that the issues that you will face in 2 years, in 10 years, are extremely different from what we face now. The point is to give you instruments that are rich enough and flexible enough to be able to analyze also what nowadays is completely unknown and difficult to predict. Okay? You need to invest in maths, you need to work hard for that, but it's something that is extremely interesting.